What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Service-Based Business Podcast. I'm your host, Ben Moreland. I am actually joined today by my dog. He's going to tell you about the cable industry. No, I'm just playing. But anyways, today we're going to be talking about outdoor winter services that you can offer as part of your business. And these are pretty much like I only have two really ideas that I have. And they're kind of your main things that you're going to be doing. The businesses like this will do in the winter. Your landscaping businesses. These are kind of your main things in snowy climates, at least. If you live in like California or Florida, there's probably more things that you can do year round. Like bed maintenance kind of stuff. You're maybe not cutting grass year round, but you might be doing other things year round. So, yeah, that's pretty much what I've got. I did not post an episode last week. I didn't film an episode last week. I just didn't have time to do it. I didn't feel too bad because, well, who was really watching this? Not very many people. Also, I realized the lighting really, really sucks right now. I got a new ceiling fan, and a consequence of that has been that my lighting now sucks. Even though the bulbs are brighter, I think that's actually what's causing my lighting to suck more. Is that I'm like right here, I'm incredibly dark as opposed to I was a little bit brighter before. So I just have to suck it. There's really not much I can do to fix that at the moment. I'm probably gonna at some point get some lights, so that I'm bright, but I'm not gonna spend $100 on some key lights right now for this thing that I'm doing. So I apologize for the maybe not so great quality. I'll see if I can find a short-term or a semi-long-term solution that makes me look at least a little less crappy, but I don't look that bad, so I don't really feel too bad about it. Anyways, let's jump right into this. So the obvious one, the most obvious one of them all, is going to be snow removal. So let's talk about it. So if you're not doing snow removal already, I would encourage you to start it. I don't like snow removal, don't get me wrong. I hate snow. But it's simple enough that you can really, at least for me, as a high schooler, as someone who's still in school, who still has other things going on in their life, I can really at least somewhat control how busy I will be. Obviously I can't control the weather, but I do have still, because I can choose the size of my service area, at least I do choose the size of my service area a little bit. I kind of fine tune it really down, as opposed to lawn care. My service area, I guess, is kind of broad. But when it comes to snow, you can really close on your service area, and you can also just have, I'm only going to take on a few jobs, this set amount of jobs for the season. One other thing that I tend to get with snow removal is I'll get temporary jobs. I'll be I'm going to be gone on vacation, for 2 weeks, while I'm gone, if it snows, can you take care of my snow? That's not a bad way to do it as well. I wouldn't rely only on that unless you just need a little bit of extra cash, but yeah. So anyways, let's first of all talk about plowing. Let me appease the dog first. He's being whiny. Stop. Don't whine anymore. I pet you. Okay, so let's jump right into snow plowing. So again, I'm gonna admit this is very surface level information, but we're gonna get into it anyways. So for a used plow, just a plow, what I've kind of found is you're going to be looking at spending around $1,000, $1,500 for a used plow. These are going to be these are going to be your older plows that you're going to find, Facebook Marketplace kind of things. But you can get started for, assuming you already have a truck or an SUV or something that is, can be equipped with a snow plow, or already has, some things for a snow plow. You're going to be looking probably around $1,000. Not that you can't find them for cheaper, but when you're thinking about putting on a trucker grade snowplow, That's what you're going to be looking at, is probably $1,000 or so at least. You can oftentimes find plow trucks for sale on Facebook Marketplace, at least in my experience, and for $3,000 or so, or minimum probably. I've seen like $2,500. You can actually get you can get a whole pickup and it has a snowplow on it already, and that's would honestly be kind of my like, if you're really like starting, if you're kind of at the bottom, you're like, okay, I really want to do snow plowing to really like take my business up to the next level. And then I would actually, I'd encourage that, unless you already have, if you have a truck that you somewhat care about, then that's what you like. My truck, I like my truck. I'll admit it's a bit of a piece of junk sometimes, but I do like my truck, and I don't really want to beat it up too much. Like I want to try and keep it at least somewhat nice. Not that I like hate operating out of it. Like, it's not a big deal. But probably if I was gonna, spend $1,000 or more on a plow, I'd honestly just spend more and get in a whole other truck, and that way I could have like a proper work truck. So if you're actually thinking about upgrading, buying a second truck, or maybe getting your first work truck, whatever you want to say, buying a snow plow truck might not be a bad idea. Of course, you can take that plow off when it's no longer snowing. So anyways, that's kind of what you're going to be looking at financially. Of course, you can spend a lot more than that on a plow, but when you're looking at something that's used, that's what you're going to be looking at. They do make snow plows for things like lawn tractors, and of course, like Toro makes like some, and maybe Grasshopper too. I know Grasshopper, I think, makes snow throwers for like their zero turns, but when it comes to like a stand-on machine, I believe Toro makes some snow plows that you can get like on your kind of your mower style machine. I don't know exactly what you'd call it, but like on your stand-on machine, I think you can get like a plow attachment. And so if you're doing driveways, and that's the way that you'd prefer to, if you already have that machine, I will be honest, I don't know how much it costs to get a plow attachment for that kind of a thing. But if you already have that stand-on machine and they offer a plow, that might be a good idea. Something to look into. Another thing might be to look into like a lawn tractor, if that is something that would, if that's something that would be applicable for the properties that you do snow for. With snow plowing, you're going to want insurance, if you ask me, especially if you're operating out of a truck. You're going to want insurance, so make sure you have insurance. That's one of the reasons I don't do any snow plowing. Again, I'm a high school student, so I don't got, I'm doing chore work, and I think that plowing kind of is outside of the scope of chore work legally. And the last thing you want to do is break something of somebody's, and you're screwed. That's gonna be expensive. You don't want to have to deal with that. Don't want to have to deal with that. And on top of that, you're insured. You're gonna be able to get commercial contracts at that point with with businesses. You can go and plow their parking lot or whatever. So contracts are a big part of it too, like commercial contracts at least. So that's snow plowing. The other form of snow removal is, of course, shoveling or snow blowing. This is what I do. Of course, I usually service 2, 3, 4 properties during the winter for snow removal. It's real cheap to get into. Of course, you can literally buy a shovel for $20. It's easy to do. It just has a side hustle. You can pretty easily control, and like I said earlier a little bit, you can really control your service area. You can go and have a wide service area. You can pick up a lot of customers, or small service area, pick up a few customers. If you've got extra time at night, you can go door to door and offer your snow shoveling, snow blowing, whatever services as well. I feel like that's kind of a common thing that kids do. You can do it whenever, right? You don't gotta be a teenager to do that. But that is a way you can do it. I actually this year bought my first ever snow thrower. Last year I was using, my dad bought an Toro electric one, which isn't bad, but I got a gas powered one now. So that gives you more, opportunity to expand. It does have a little bit more power and stuff. Downside, of course, is going to be that machine is way heavier. One thing that I kind of have a not so great solution with my truck is that I'm using truck ramps to load the thing, and it's pretty steep, especially considering I don't have a lift kit or anything on my truck, but I do have bigger rims, so my truck sits up higher, of course, and that does make that that angle that the ramps are at makes it it's going to be steeper, so it is hard to load and unload that gas trimmer. So that's something to think about if you're like, well, what kind of not trimmer, blower, snow thrower. So if you are thinking about like getting a snow thrower, that's something to think about when you're thinking about electric versus gas. Again, that's just something to think about. Do you want, and how many yards how many properties are you gonna be doing? If you're only gonna be doing one or two, it's like, electric might be just fine for you. But if you're gonna do a lot, doesn't recommend going for a gas one. Again, the downside, of course, is that it's gonna be heavier, but most of your gas snow throwers are gonna be self-propelled, so there is that upside. Like the one that I got is self-propelled. It has some gears, so you don't have to like manually push it. You just walk behind it. It's a walk behind machine, right? So that is the upside of that. And I paid literally like $60, I think, for the snow thrower that I have. So you can get them for fairly cheap used. They might have an issue or something, but honestly, that's okay for at least for me, as long as it's not like a giant issue. Like this one, it didn't fully start when I bought it, but I could tell like it was like close to starting, right? I did get it home. I actually did get it started right away, or pretty much right away when I got it home. Like later that evening, it was alright. I know it needed a carb clean. That was disclosed. I got it to start, and it was pretty close to starting again when I was buying it. Didn't matter anyways. I'm gonna go get the thing serviced. It's a brand new piece of equipment. So the fact that it, isn't like in the greatest, wasn't in the greatest condition, that's fine. I'm gonna go get that carb cleaned. I'm gonna go get that thing, like spark plugs and oil. I don't mind doing those myself, especially on like my mower, or sharpening my mower blades, those kinds of things. But I just have a push mower, so that's all I have to do for servicing. Like an air filter, that's all stuff I can do myself. But when you get to your walk behind machines, I'm not servicing all of that myself, at least at this point. So what I do, it's like it's gonna go get serviced anyways. It's alright. I can just pay the extra $30 or whatever it is to get the carb cleaned, and in 2 days I've got my snow thrower that works. It's all lubed and ready to go. Carbs all cleaned up and everything. So again, you can get started with snow removal for fairly cheap, assuming you already have like a truck and everything. Kind of an easy upsell with snow removal is gonna be salting. You can literally just get a friggin' shaker bottle. You can get like a hand spreader if you're doing like driveways. If they want like your driveway salted, and you got a big driveway, you can get like a hand, either like a battery operated or like a hand crank spreader. Those things are made for seed or whatever, and they can probably be used for salting driveways just fine. You get like a push spreader, but honestly, that's for most things. I feel like that's a little overkill. And if you're looking to get into large scale things like that, then I know like they make salt spreaders that go on the back. They go in your truck bed, and they will just operate out of the back of your truck. So it's a proper spreader, and they also have, I believe, I've seen like stand-on machines that they're just a spreader, and those can again be used for when you're talking large scale. Those are what can be used, if it's a parking lot, or if it's if it's a big parking lot, or I don't know, maybe it's a giant driveway or something, I don't know. But those are some options. So that's kind of snow removal in a nutshell. Like, you're gonna if you're doing residential, you're gonna want a shovel, and probably a snow thrower and some salt. If you're looking for salt, I really don't know much about salt, but I would encourage you to get the pet-friendly salt, so that if you have customers who have animals, it's gonna be fine for them. And again, oftentimes customers might actually have salt that they're just like, oh, can you just spread this down? And it's really no biggie. So yeah, that is kind of snow removal in a nutshell. At least if I missed anything, feel free to yell at me in the comments, but that's kind of what I think about. That's what I got for snow removal. So next I want to talk about lights and decorations. Lights are kind of, again, one of the big things that that oftentimes landscaping companies will do jobs for is going to be your Christmas lights or your holiday lights. So how does that work is kind of the question you might be having if you've never really heard of it, or if maybe you've heard of it but you just don't know a lot of details. And I feel like I'm going to kind of go in depth with this. Again, it's pretty, probably for the industry, it's probably kind of surface level, but I feel like I don't do this personally. Again, I feel like just like snow plowing, I feel like it's just a little bit outside of the realm of chore work, although technically it is probably, but whatever. I'll get into it a little bit at some point about why I don't do it. So I'll get there eventually. So anyways, let's talk about it. So when you're doing a light job for a house, you're doing holiday lights, you are custom fitting those lights to that house. Everything you're doing is custom. You're not just going to go buy from Menards a string of lights and just string them. That's not really what you're doing. What you're doing is you're going to get a spool of empty lights, and all it is it's just wire and then the connector for the bulb, and it comes, you can get giant 1,000-foot spools of this, and on top of that, then you're also going to buy bulbs. So you're going to buy those separately. Most of the time you're going to see guys, they go with either C7s or C9s for like houses, right? That's what you're going to go with. For the other things, they go different things. When it comes to like house lighting, right, you're going to go C7 or C9 bulbs usually. You're also going to need like some extra wire, and then you're going to want connectors, plugs, and things like that, so that you can take and run that. You have all your lights around the house. You obviously need to connect it to where it plugs in, so you're going to want some extra wire, and of course you're going to need like the splicer connectors and stuff to make all those connections, and then run that down, and of course connect the different pieces of light fixtures, of light strands, right? Additionally, you're going to need clips. That's something I forgot to say. You're going to need clips for your bulbs. How that works is basically, if you don't know, is you have that strand is going to be like a bulb every foot, basically, is usually how it is. And so you're going to have that, like, great, now you've got your you've got your empty strand, you screw your bulb in. Okay, great, how do I attach this to the house? Commonly what you're going to do is have a clip, and they make like 2 directional clips, because usually you're going to be attaching to gutters or to shingles. Those are kind of your, I believe, gutters. Yeah, you're going to be attaching to like gutters or shingles. And so you're going to use a different, basically, directional clip for what you're attaching to. They make clips that do both. And then in some cases you will use like hot glue and stuff to, maybe it's like the top of a house that they want, like their peak, they want lights across, or maybe it's a doorway, archway or something, and those clips aren't going to work. Hot glue. Some other things that you can kind of upsell a little bit is going to be like timers. Maybe you include timers, but you're probably going to want to have some light timers that you can sell to your customer, that they have an easy way, whether it's just a light switch, or whether it's just like a clicker, or if it's a smart one that connects to your Wi-Fi and then consequently connects to your phone. Whatever the case may be, you're probably going to want timers. That can be that's usually something that, I guess, depending on who you ask, that might be something that the customer pays for, or maybe something that you just include, whatever, but don't, make sure you're just not giving those away. So then I feel like this was one of the first questions I had, is, what do you do with the lights? So you go, you put them up, right? They run for the season. You take them down. What do you do with the lights? Does the customer own the lights, or do you own the lights? And it really does vary depending upon who you ask what happens with those lights. Some people are very much like, I own the lights, like they're mine. And I tend to agree with that. Like in some cases, some people be like, I'm renting out the lights, right? But at the same time, other people, I feel like more people are actually like, I own the lights. But okay, you will also find people who say that, that they rent the lights and, I kind of messed that up. I just realized. So there are some people who would be like, they sell the lights to the customers. Be like, the customer owns the lights, and other people would be like, they're renting them out. They own the light. The company owns the lights, and the customer is just renting them. Basically, that is what I meant to say. You'll find most people who are like, the company owns the lights. You will find people who do like they sell the lights to the customers. Depends on who you ask. So those are kind of your two options for like who, people do both. The upside of you owning the lights is that, like I've seen, I've seen businesses where it's like, we own the lights, we charge you, let's just say, we'll just throw $1,000 as like an arbitrary number. So, maybe it's like, $700 for all your lights and everything, and then $300 they're charging the customer, then, $700 for the lights and all that. That's what it costs the company to get them. And then, $300 for labor and profit, all that. So it's $1,000 job, right? So oftentimes people be like, okay, I own the lights. If the company owns the lights, then the next year they simply don't have that expense. The expense of the lights for a new customer, and then the company makes way more profit. That's one side of it. Another side of it might be, they're selling those lights to the customer, and then the customer owns them. It can work out who's gonna. You also think about that. If you're selling their lights to the customer, who's gonna store them? That's something to think about. Are you gonna offer to store them for the customer? Is the customer responsible for storing them? Something to think about. All right. So like I was saying before, I had to go deal with my dog. Basically, like, you're gonna find guys who rent out the lights, and guys who sell the lights to the customer. That's just the two sides of it. So it's kind of up to you what you want to do. Personally, I think if I was going to do it, I would be selling the lights to the customers. Some guys, they not sell the lights. I'd be owning the lights. I'd be renting them the lights. Some guys who rent the lights, they're going to charge you, again, that $1,000 example. Maybe they're going to charge you $1,000 that first year, and then the next year they're only going to charge you $600. Some guys, their model is going to be to charge you $1,000 every year regardless, and that's up to you. That's not, something to think about too. Is it's not just as simple as, you buy these lights and then they're going to work flawless the next year when you go to put them up, because of course they're custom fit to that property, right? So you're probably going to want to, ideally you're going to want to use the exact same stuff that's already custom fit to the property. And with that, you have to keep in mind, bulbs are going to go, bad. You're going to have to replace bulbs. You might have to replace a section of strand or an entire strand, of whatever. You might have to replace a timer. You might have to replace a wire. Things like that happen. So even if you're deciding to drop your price, for the second year, you're just paying for labor, like make sure you also include, an extra X amount of dollars for things that are going to happen. Bulbs are going to go out, connectors and stuff might not work, your wires don't work, whatever it is. So that is all kind of things that you're going to incorporate into pricing. One of the downsides I see to like, I own the lights and the customer's just renting them from me is, well, okay, what happens if that customer doesn't come back? And although that is something that of course can happen, you do have to keep in mind, like, these things can, it's not ideal, but they probably can be reused. Probably the case is going to be more so than like adding, if you have a 10-foot section you're probably not going to go and take and add another 10. You could, but you might not want to add another 10-foot section to complete another 20-foot section on your house. You might go put it on a 5-foot section, if that makes sense. But yeah. So those are kind of the two, like, models, if you will, for what happens with those, with the physical items. Are you renting them to the customer, or are you selling them to the customer? Other ways to upsell are going to be things like wreaths. That's kind of a common one I feel like people do, is you can upsell them, put some wreaths out, things like that. Maybe, if there's, a demand for it, you could do things like inflatables. You could do things like window decorations. I do feel like those two things are not going to be as like common with that customer base, which I'll get into in a minute. But those are things you could, if the market is there, those are things that you could do. You also maybe look at your market, which again I'll get into in customers. So there's something else I wanted to say, but I literally cannot remember it all. Oh, trees. Another thing you can do is you could wrap trees. That is something that people do. For that you may need, depending upon what kind of a tree it is, how big is the tree, those kinds of things, you might need a cherry picker or some other way to climb up that tree that isn't just a ladder. So that's something to keep in mind. If this is something that you're going to be doing, spend lots of time learning about the business and spend some time practicing. If you are 20 and you've got your business, and you want to do you want to do these lights things, you want to do light jobs, personally I would encourage you to take a winter and do it on your own house, or do it on someone else, a family member's house for free. Just do it for free. Get some experience with doing all the things, and make sure it's something that you really kind of want to do, because it's an investment. If you're looking at buying ladders, if you're looking at buying safety equipment, you're gonna be looking at buying, of course, all those lights and everything. Those aren't cheap. Like, that's not a cheap investment in strands of lights and bulbs and clips and all that stuff. Like, it ain't cheap. So, I mean, it is cheap, but it adds up quick. So it's all something you have to think about. And so, yeah, I would definitely encourage you, again, spend a lot of time learning the business, on YouTube. There are definitely some channels and YouTube videos out there about the business that go into more detail than I've been going into, and you can definitely learn a lot from those guys. That's how I learned about it. Yeah. When it comes to pricing, are you going to price by foot? That's really all I've got. Again, if you go and you spend the time learning, you will find out what other guys, how other guys price their lights. What do they charge per foot? They're different. Usually, again, your light strands, like I mentioned earlier quickly, is, you might have a bulb per foot. So, if your bulb costs 15 cents, then that's, 15 cents per foot. If you buy a 1,000-foot light strand, it costs you $1,000, then you're putting another $1 per foot, right? Your clip's 5 cents. Okay, you're at $1.20 per foot at your base cost. Then you gotta think about labor. Okay, maybe it takes, maybe it's $5 of labor, just for a number, right? $5 of labor. Someone's getting up on a ladder, they gotta put that light on, whatever, right? Gotta screw the bulb in, all that crap. Now you're at $6.20 per foot base cost, right? Shouldn't cost you $5 in labor, I wouldn't think, for doing that. But there you go. Like, there's your pricing, right? For figuring out what it's gonna cost you per foot to do light jobs. And the final piece of this is kind of the most challenging, I feel like, in some ways, is customers. So light jobs are not cheap for the customer. Your average person who is making like $60,000 a year is probably not going to year after year after year buy Christmas lights set up from you. Like, they're probably not, because it's expensive. Like, jobs are these are $1,000 jobs we're talking about, at least, right? When it comes to Christmas lights, and again, your average person probably who makes 60 grand a year or so is probably not going to keep coming back year. Maybe if there's, again, this could be a touchy thing, but if it's, maybe it's someone's last Christmas or something, then in that kind of a case, you might have, someone who's more, middle class who might be interested in this for, a year or something, right? But, a year, maybe 2 or whatever, right? But your reoccurring customers are going to be in that upper class region. So yeah, your customers who you're going to be dealing with oftentimes, who are going to keep coming back year after year after year, are going to be like upper class people who are making good money because these jobs are expensive and they can afford to spend, $1,000, $2,000, $3,000, $4,000 on a light job, and that's one reason why I kind of stayed clear of it. Because although I think technically legally I could do it, they're going to want to go with a company who's insured. They're going to want to go to a company. They want to go with someone who's insured, right? They're not going to probably want to be messing with some kid. Now, not that I'm not capable of doing it, but, those are kinds of things you have to think about when you're talking about, these custom light fitting jobs. Is who is your target market? And it's going to be those upper class people. And of course, not like you're never going to have other people who are interested, but again, something to keep in mind. And this I'm going to go backtrack a little bit. I know I talked about inflatables and other decor stuff that you could do, and that might be a way that you can actually target your more average income, those 60 grand a year people who you can maybe target them with. That might be more your market for things like inflatables. I know around my neighborhood, people set up inflatables around here, that's people do Christmas decorating, and for some people they might have no interest, but some people they might be interested in inflatables or something. So if you're looking at your market, there might be a market for that. There might not be, I don't know, but it is just something to think about. Another quick note that I want to mention about actual general light jobs is they don't always have to be Christmas lights either. You can do Halloween lights as well. And the same thing applies to inflatables. People around here, at least, decorate for Halloween. Halloween, I feel like, is a pretty big deal here in America. People really celebrate Halloween. They like to decorate for Halloween. And that can be a way that you can, you can set up those things of lights and just have, orange and purple bulbs. And then come Christmas time, you change them out for, a white, something you do. Same thing with inflatables. You can have Halloween decoration inflatables, big skeletons or whatever, and then you could take and do Christmas ones as well, which is not quite as reusing like the lights job is, but it's something you can do. So again, something to kind of think about. If there's a target market for Thanksgiving decorations, you can maybe do Thanksgiving. People don't do that like that here though, at least where I live. So Thanksgiving decorations are definitely not something I really think about. I don't feel like there's usually as many people who decorate for Thanksgiving. But anyways, that has been outdoor winter services. I feel like those are kind of going to be your general outdoor winter services that you're going to see that companies are going to do. A lot of other stuff can be difficult to do, and these are things that can almost always do, especially in those snowy climates. Of course, you're not going to have grass, you're not going to have bed work or any sort of outdoor landscaping kind of work. So what do? Snow and lights. Those are kind of your most common things to do. So definitely some things to think about if you're looking for a way or a couple ways to expand your business to keep cash flow coming in the winter. At least a little bit, right? If you're someone like me who's in high school, or maybe you're in college, or you're already working a job and this is kind of a side hustle deal, how can you pick up a few snow jobs so that you're still making a little bit of money? Something you can do. So yeah, that's kind of that. I hope you guys did enjoy. If you guys have any questions, comments, make sure to comment them down below. If you guys enjoyed, go ahead, hit the thumbs up button. I greatly appreciate anybody who likes. I appreciate it. I honestly have no idea what I'll be talking about in the next episode, but I might have to come up with something. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoy, and I will see you guys hopefully next week. Peace.